A big win for America. That is what President Trump is saying in response to today's unanimous ruling by the Supreme Court, in which even the liberal justices sided with their conservative colleagues to overrule Colorado in kicking President Trump off the ballot. The decision also overturned similar moves made by Democrats in Maine and in Illinois. When it comes to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the court, in its majority opinion, writes that, quote, "We conclude that states may disqualify persons holding or attempting to hold state office, but states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency," end quote. However, the three liberal justices, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, issued their own concurring opinion in which they expressed agreement with the final decision regarding President Trump's eligibility for the ballot, but not for exactly the same reasons that the conservative members of the court gave. Justice Amy Coney Barrett likewise issued her own concurring opinion, which held some of the same points as the liberals did in their decision. There's a lot more to get into tonight with this ruling and with some other big court-related news. So joining us now to break it all down is Josh Hammer, the senior editor at large for Newsweek. Josh, thanks for being here tonight.
Tara, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. So how great is it that this ruling came down unanimously? I mean, the left obviously isn't happy because you don't see that word in almost any of their headlines about it.
Yeah, it's a remarkable affirmation of lowercase r Republican self-governance, popular sovereignty, and ultimately, frankly, just democracy itself. I mean, it really is quite ironic. It's bitterly ironic, isn't it, that the very forces who claim that they care so much about capital O-R, capital D, democracy, trademark sign, they are actually the ones who have been attempting through under the table tactics to subvert it time and time again for such a long time here. But after the oral argument at this in this case was held last month, I think it was February 8th was the date there. The only question after that was whether this was going to come down 9-0 unanimous or 8-1. It was very clear at that oral argument that really no one was buying Colorado's argument. Even Ketanji Brown Jackson and Elena Kagan were deeply skeptical of Colorado. So the only question really was whether Sonia Sotomayor would issue a, fiery solo dissent to, play up her hashtag resistance bona fides and get the MSNBC crowd kind of applauding like seals and all of that. That was really the only question here. But it is a huge victory for, again, for we the people, rooted sovereignty, the very we the people of which the Constitution's preamble speaks. It's a very straightforward opinion, a 13-page per curiam unsigned opinion, probably written by the Chief Justice, if I had to guess. And, this concurrence in the judgment from the three liberal justices, it's a total nothing burger. I'm really not particularly concerned here. It's not like they were issuing like a fiery dissent or anything. They had a quibble with some of the language in the per curiam opinion towards the end of it. I'm not really sure exactly why they felt the need to write this. I think they're quibbling over very small potato type stuff. So that should not in any way whatsoever undermine our sense of gratitude and joy for what is a very, very sound ruling.
Like you're talking about democracy, but Josh, don't you know that we have to destroy democracy in order to save democracy? That's been the argument they've been making for quite a while now. And like you're saying, even just last month when you heard some of those arguments, it was quite amazing actually to hear some of those liberal justices making some of the arguments that they were, saying Colorado, basically who died and made you king to determine who's going to be president for the United States, and on some of their arguments went. Of course, that's a complete paraphrase, my words. Obviously, that's not all the words that they used. But then it was interesting, just the other week or two, there was that Cook County, Illinois judge, right? The one who tried to take President Trump off the ballot in her area. And I was just wondering to myself, did she not, hear about the oral arguments from last month at the Supreme Court, that even the liberal justices were not on board with what Colorado was doing, and yet they tried to push ahead. But it seems this is, hopefully that final nail on the coffin. Now, it's interesting, like you're saying, with these three very liberal Supreme Court justices and making the ruling that they did. They made their own concurring opinion. So I guess perhaps to say, see, we don't fully agree with the conservatives, but of course they do agree with the end final decision.